Are y'all having a girl or a boy?
He stole Zariah's life because of jealousy and anger. She didn't deserve to be killed, especially by her known assailants.
This is Zariah McKeever, a 23-year-old mother whose life was filled with love, ambition, and dreams for the future. But little did she know her end would take a tragic turn when she would be killed by her baby daddy for introducing another man to her family. In November 2022, her story would take a devastating turn, ending in a tragedy that shocked the entire Brooklyn Park community. What makes this case even more chilling is that the violence was not random. It was orchestrated by someone she once trusted, the father of her own child. In the early hours of that night, police responded to a frantic call from Zariah's apartment complex. When they arrived, they discovered a horrifying scene: Zariah's lifeless body, a shattered door frame, and bullet holes marking the walls. Surveillance footage later revealed two teenagers storming into her home, kicking down the door and opening fire. What should have been a quiet night turned into a nightmare for her family and friends. But the true horror of that night only began to unfold once investigators pieced together the disturbing details of who was behind the attack. What started as harassment and stalking escalated into something much worse: a deadly tragedy that changed the lives of Zariah's family and community forever. But before that, let me take you back to 2002 and how it all began. Zariah McKeever was 23 years old at the time of her death, a young mother from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Described by those who knew her as a beautiful, intelligent, and kind-hearted woman, Zariah's presence could brighten up any room she entered. She had a love for life and an undeniable drive to succeed. As a mother, she cherished her young daughter and worked hard to create a better life for her. But more than that, her personality was magnetic. Those close to her admired her positive outlook on life, despite the challenges she faced. Zariah was known for her infectious energy and her ability to uplift others. She had a natural gift for making people feel at ease, and often found herself in the role of the peacekeeper among her friends. Her sense of humor and warm heart made her the kind of person you couldn't help but be drawn to, which was no surprise when she attracted a man who would change her life forever.
Zariah had a strong sense of empathy, always going out of her way to help those in need, even when she herself was going through difficult times. Her friends described her as someone who would drop everything to offer support, whether it was lending an ear or offering a helping hand. Zariah believed in lifting others up and giving back whenever possible, which made her a cherished friend and confidant to many, which was evident in the amount of people who showed up to mourn with her family. Zariah's love for her daughter was evident in everything she did, always working to create a better life for her child. Her family recalls her as someone who always made the best of her circumstances and who had big dreams for the future. She was the type of person who refused to let hardship define her. Zariah had big plans for the future, and she was determined to make them a reality, especially for her daughter. However, in the aftermath of her tragic death, Zariah's family has been forced to confront the painful reality that those dreams will never be realized. Zariah's past relationship with Eric DeJuan Haynes, the father of her daughter, was filled by jealousy and control. Though the two had split up after having their child together, Eric's obsession with Zariah only intensified after their breakup. Despite Zariah's efforts to move forward with her life, Eric's fixation on her continued to grow, with his jealousy turning into an all-consuming need to control her every move. Zariah moved on and started dating someone new, but Eric could not accept this. his jealousy turned toxic, and he began to harass her both in person and online. He would follow her around, threatening her new boyfriend and creating a constant atmosphere of fear and intimidation. Zariah's tragic end came on November 8, 2022, when her ex-boyfriend, Eric Haynes, took his jealousy and control to an unthinkable extreme. After weeks of harassment, Eric decided to escalate the situation. He gave a gun to two teenagers, aged 15 and 17, and instructed them to kill Zariah's new boyfriend. He also made it clear that if Zariah got in the way, she too should be killed. This horrific plan was set in motion. In the early hours of November 8th, at around 2:30 a.m., Eric drove the two teenagers to the apartment complex on Zane Avenue North in Brooklyn Park, where Zariah's boyfriend lived. The teenagers, still in their teens, were likely overwhelmed by the pressure and fear instilled in them by Eric, waited in the car. Once there, the teenagers got to work. They kicked in the door to the apartment and started shooting. Zariah, who was inside the apartment, was struck multiple times by the gunfire. The chaos unfolded in a matter of moments. Zariah, caught off guard in the stillness of the night, didn't have a chance to react. Her body was hit with several bullets before she could even reach safety. Zariah's new boyfriend, who had been in the bathroom when the shooting started, managed to escape through a window, narrowly evading the violence. In the midst of the panic, he immediately called 911, fearing for his life and desperate to save Zariah. The teenagers' reckless gunfire didn't stop with Zariah. They fired several shots into the apartment, hitting the walls and doorframe, before one of the bullets found its mark, striking the 17-year-old in the leg. Despite the pain from the injury, both teens managed to flee the scene and meet up with Eric. They left behind a trail of destruction, the aftermath of a night that would forever alter Zariah's family and the community.
A life taken too soon. A 23-year-old Brooklyn Park woman shot and killed over what her loved ones say was an act of pure jealousy and hate. Investigators say the ex-boyfriend of 23-year-old Zariah McKeever recruited two teenagers to help him beat up McKeever's boyfriend. Instead, McKeever ended up shot and killed.
When officers arrived on the scene, they found Zariah lying in the apartment, lifeless, with a gunshot wound to her abdomen. Despite the quick response from emergency medical personnel, Zariah was declared dead shortly thereafter. The sound of gunfire still echoed in the minds of those who lived nearby. The shooting was a heart-wrenching loss for Zariah's family and those who knew her. Her friends spoke of her as a woman with boundless potential, someone who worked hard every day for a better life and a brighter future for her daughter. Zariah had dreams, not just for herself, but for her child. She was a loving mother, a daughter, and a friend, someone whose life was taken far too soon. The tragic aftermath began immediately as the police responded to the crime scene. Upon their arrival, they found the chaotic and disturbing aftermath of what had just occurred. Zariah's body, the broken doorframe, and the multiple bullet holes throughout the apartment. One of the most disturbing aspects of the case was the fact that the entire event was captured on surveillance footage from the apartment complex. But what investigators discovered next would change everything. The video showed the two teenagers arriving at the scene, followed by the intense chaos inside the apartment as they kicked in the door and fired shots at Zariah. The footage later became a crucial piece of evidence, not only confirming the sequence of events, but also shocking the wider community. Local residents expressed fear and outrage as the crime highlighted the growing issue of youth involvement in violent acts. The media coverage intensified public scrutiny, with many questioning how teenagers could be drawn into such a devastating plot. As the investigation unfolded, the police were able to trace the vehicle that had been used as the getaway car to the scene of the crime. This same car was later used to take the injured 17-year-old suspect to the hospital for treatment. The police quickly intercepted the suspects at the hospital and identified them as being involved in the shooting. Detectives noted that the suspects appeared disoriented and panicked, which aligned with the chaotic nature of the crime. Forensic teams collected fingerprints, ballistic evidence, and DNA samples from the apartment, all of which tied the suspects directly to the shooting.
The swift police work was praised by officials, as it prevented the suspects from fleeing or destroying further evidence. Little did they know, the story was far from over. Eric Haynes was arrested immediately, and police later discovered that he had orchestrated the entire plot. His involvement in the murder was made clear when he confessed during an interview with the police, admitting that he had given the teens a gun and instructed them to break into the apartment and kill Zariah's boyfriend.
We're following big developments out of the state of Minnesota, a huge one actually, in the high-profile murder case involving 2 minors and an adult suspected of killing Zariah McKeever, a 23-year-old mother and a one-year-old baby.
Investigators later revealed that Haynes had a history of controlling behavior and had previously threatened Zariah. His confession not only exposed his manipulation of the teenagers, but also painted a picture of premeditation and emotional instability. Prosecutors emphasized that the case was not just about a crime of passion, but about calculated revenge, which made the charges against him even more severe. The community mourned Zariah's loss, with vigils held in her honor, while advocacy groups called for stronger measures to protect young women from domestic-related violence. The police investigation into Zariah's death revealed a deeply troubling pattern of jealousy and violence from Eric Haynes. He had been stalking Zariah for weeks leading up to the crime, and his behavior had been escalating.
Pure evil and jealousy, that's what led to it.
Tiffany Epps says Monday was a typical day, with one exception.
Me and my sister went somewhere and her child's father was following us.
Not only that, neighbors confirmed that they had seen Eric's car at the apartment complex multiple times, and the evidence of his presence was also captured in video footage. The 2 teenagers involved in the murder were also questioned by the police. They confirmed that Eric had provided them with a gun and ordered them to shoot Zariah's boyfriend. But they shared something else. According to the teens, Zariah had allegedly threatened them with a knife when they entered the apartment, which led them to shoot her. However, the evidence contradicted their statements, and video footage from the apartment confirmed that Zariah had not been the aggressor. The investigation, which included forensic evidence, surveillance footage, and witness testimony, quickly linked all 3 individuals to the crime. The police were able to recover the firearm used in the murder, which had been hidden in a vehicle parked near the scene. Given Eric's prior criminal history and his direct involvement in orchestrating the murder, Haynes faces serious charges, including first-degree murder and felonious assault. He was also charged with possessing a firearm as a convicted felon, which further exacerbates his legal troubles.
McKeever's ex-boyfriend, Eric Haynes, had been charged with second-degree murder for being the alleged mastermind behind her death. Now a grand jury has indicted him on 2 counts of first-degree murder, including 1 for premeditation, along with 1 count of second-degree murder with intent.
The 2 teenagers involved in the shooting were also charged with murder, and prosecutors sought to move their cases to adult court, given the gravity of their actions.
A brief court appearance today for Fode Kamara. This week, he was certified as an adult and charged with 2 counts of murder.
Legal analysts noted that the decision to charge the teenagers as adults reflected the severity of the crime and the growing concern about juvenile involvement in violent offenses. The charges carried potential life sentences, underscoring the seriousness with which the justice system treated the case. Community members expressed mixed emotions, with some advocating for rehabilitation due to the suspect's young age, while others demanded strict punishment to deter similar crimes in the future. During his first court appearance, Eric Haynes expressed regret for his involvement in the murder. However, he insisted that the shooting had not been intentional, claiming that it had been an act of self-defense. But this defense was quickly rejected. The court pointed to the evidence of premeditation and the clear involvement of Eric in the planning and execution of the crime. Court documents revealed that Eric had provided detailed instructions to the teenagers prior to the attack, including supplying them with the firearm and directing them to target Zariah's boyfriend. Prosecutors emphasized that his confession and the surveillance footage left little room for doubt about his intent. The judge highlighted the calculated nature of the crime, noting that Eric's attempt to frame the incident as self-defense was inconsistent with the overwhelming evidence. Public reaction to his courtroom statements was one of outrage, with many seeing his claims as a desperate attempt to avoid accountability.
Advocacy groups used the case to call for stronger measures against domestic violence and stricter enforcement of firearm restrictions for convicted felons. The news of Zariah McKeever's death sent shocks through her family, friends, and the Brooklyn Park community. Zariah was beloved by those who knew her, and her tragic death left a deep void in their lives. Her mother, Tiffany Epps, has been vocal about the impact of losing her daughter.
My heart aches. I miss my daughter so much.
Tiffany recalled how her sister Zariah was full of life and always put her daughter first. The two sisters, who were also pregnant at the same time, had children of the same age.
Tiffany Epps was pregnant the same time as her younger sister, Zariah McKeever. Their kids are the same age, and now Zariah's daughter will have to grow up without her mom.
Zariah had always dreamed of being a mom, and her daughter was the center of her world.
Tiffany Epps says her younger sister, Zariah McKeever, was born to be a mom.
She planned to be a mom before she was a mom. Like, she already had names picked out, things that she wanted to do.
Tiffany believes that Zariah was trying to protect her new boyfriend when she confronted the teenagers in her apartment.
She thought she could, calm him down or get him to leave, and if her new boyfriend was out of sight, then everything would be good,
Later, family members shared that Zariah's nurturing spirit was evident from a young age, as she often took on the role of caregiver within her household. Friends described her as someone who radiated positivity, always encouraging others and offering support whenever it was needed. Her devotion to her daughter was seen as the defining aspect of her life, and many recalled how she balanced motherhood with her entrepreneurial ambitions. Tiffany expressed her heartbreak, knowing that her sister had a bright future ahead of her, and it was all taken away in a moment of senseless violence. Tiffany's grief was palpable as she spoke out about the loss of her sister.
She revealed that Zariah had been targeted by her ex-boyfriend, Eric Haynes, due to his overwhelming jealousy.
You with the person like this when you could do so much better, He said that. He told us that day. He told us to watch what's going to happen to you. We both, I guess, just underestimated him.
Tiffany was adamant that Eric's actions were fueled by pure malice and rage, which ultimately led to Zariah's tragic death. Her statements resonated with advocates against domestic violence, who pointed out that Zariah's case highlighted the dangers of unchecked jealousy and controlling behavior in relationships. Community leaders emphasized the importance of raising awareness and providing resources for women facing similar threats. Tiffany's courage in speaking publicly about her sister's death became a rallying cry for change, inspiring others to share their own experiences and demand stronger protections. The community was equally devastated. Zariah's death, caused by such a brutal and unnecessary act, shook the local community to its core. Zariah's passing was a stark reminder of the dangers of domestic violence and jealousy. Vigils were held across Brooklyn Park, where candles were lit and prayers offered for her family. The tragedy sparked conversations about community safety and the need for stronger support systems for single mothers and entrepreneurs like Zariah, who often face unique challenges balancing personal and professional responsibilities. As the investigation unfolded, the pain and anger were compounded by the realization that the tragic incident could have been prevented if it weren't for Eric's obsession and violent tendencies. The fact that two teenagers were enlisted to carry out the crime only added to the horror. The community rallied behind Zariah's family, showing support for the justice they so desperately sought. Neighbors and friends organized fundraisers to assist with funeral expenses and to provide long-term support for Zariah's daughter. Social media campaigns spread awareness of her story, ensuring that her memory lived on and that her case served as a warning about the devastating consequences of domestic violence. The collective grief transformed into a movement for justice, with many demanding harsher penalties for those who manipulate minors into committing violent crimes. Zariah's funeral was a deeply emotional occasion, with her loved ones gathering to honor her life and bid her farewell. It was a somber day for the family, as they remembered a daughter, sister, and mother who was taken far too soon. Zariah's daughter, who would now grow up without her mother's love and guidance, was at the forefront of the family's thoughts as they said their final goodbyes. The ceremony was marked by heartfelt tributes, with friends and relatives sharing stories of Zariah's kindness, resilience, and dreams for the future. The atmosphere was heavy with sorrow, yet also filled with love, as attendees celebrated the joy she had brought into their lives.
Community members lined the streets to pay their respects, demonstrating the profound impact she had on those around her. Tiffany Epps, in particular, delivered an emotional eulogy, recalling the bond she shared with her sister and the pain of losing her so suddenly. She spoke of Zariah's unwavering dedication to her daughter and her determination to build a better life despite challenges. Her words left many in tears, but also strengthened the resolve of the community to stand with her family in their pursuit of justice. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.